This is Americanitis, episode 32 for September 5th. I'm your host, Daniel Sagner. This podcast contains harsh language and covers adult topics. You'll be challenged by views with which you do not agree. We may not be politically correct, but we are correct about politics. Does everybody remember punks? They were these young people that bucked authority for the sake of bucking authority. Those people who yelled "fuck the police" long before NWA taught the phrase to the nation. These hoodlums who did everything they could to make it clear that they were not part of society at large. I'm sure that this was blamed on kids rebelling against their parents, as many children do. Where did they go? Where is that spirit of resistance, that streak of defiance that has run through Americans since its founding? I'm looking for people wearing masks that say, "fuck masks," but all I can come up with is some people in California getting their power shut off for having a party. I'm looking for anarchists, but all I see are the cries for the almighty daddy state to fix everything. I'm looking for counterculture, but all I see is bootlicking. In short, I'm looking for mohawks, and all I see is blue hair. Everyone seems to be eager to conform, to find their own little pressure group and slot in wherever they can. Before you tell me that Antifa and the BLM riots are examples of punkness in action, please do have a listen.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
You see, the rioters are doing exactly what they've been told by their elders. The squawk box of the state has been turned all the way up to 11, and all it says from 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 is that your neighbor who thinks differently than you wants to kill you, and it's only right to hit them first. The Trumpmeister has mouthed his fair share of calls to action himself, you know.
Knock the crap out of him.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily. We've become weak. We've become weak.
And you know what? The audience swung back. And I thought it was very, very appropriate. The audience hit back. And that's what we need a little bit more of now.
Part of the problem and part of the reason it takes so long is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore, right?
I don't know if I would have done well, but I would have been out there fighting, folks. I don't know if I would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
Both the Dems and the GOP are guilty, but I'm getting a teensy bit more treble from the left speaker, if I'm being honest. So, what am I looking for? What would this new punk look like? Well, I doubt they'd have spiky hair and eyeliner. The punks of yesteryear were rebelling against suburban America with all of its patterned lawns, sweater vests, golf clubs, and Sunday services. No, that's not today's culture. Look around you or turn on the news, and what you see is chaos and government overreach. What you see is cities burning and politicians passing draconian laws. What you see is small businesses dying from a war of attrition while the Speaker of the House sneaks in an illicit visit to a salon to get her hair did. What you see are roving bands of thugs who want nothing less than America brought to her knees. So, today's new punk would be everything not that. What do we have to pick from? The conservatives? Please, those feckless nimrods couldn't find their own dicks with both hands a map and a Playboy mag. They stand for nothing new, and that's just not going to be enough. Don't get me wrong, they are a frightening force. The potent combination of law and order and religiosity is a deathly brew. The wheel keeps turning, and I think this is where we're headed. This energetic push from the left, for lack of a better term, is too much. Socialism, anarchy, gang warfare, political killings, extortion, critical race theory, postmodernism. Americans won't stand for it. They want order in their lives, and I fear that they might vote in a man capable of delivering just that. Communism this nation will never accept, but I don't think we have such natural defenses against fascism, against strongmen. So, who else? The intellectual dark web? Those goons like Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin, and his band of merry men? I don't think so. It's nice in theory, they can be entertaining, but they're so splintered and disagree on so much that they need a goofy name for their tree fort. The thing is that we need a clear and well-communicated message that can't be produced by a random group of libertarians, classical liberals, and philosophical vacuums that can only agree on one thing, that we need to have a conversation. Well, that's not going to be good enough in this environment, I'm sorry. Maybe if you had started 30 years ago, this would have had some impact. So, who's left? Who stands on principles that are diametrically opposed to the current culture? The answer is pretty underwhelming. It's us. Objectivists specifically, and the liberty movement in general. We who holler about individual rights from the mountaintops to all who will listen and are rightly called radicals, extremists. We are, by definition, counterculture. We are those who will not bend, will not deviate in our quest for that which we know to be true. We know that man, the individual, is sovereign. We know that our life is our own, and that our rights are not up for debate. We understand that the will of the majority is not a justification for anything, that my liberty is not to be discarded by society or by any other thug. We understand that the right to property and the uncoerced trade between free people is of the highest importance if men are to live as men and not as cattle. You know, but why do we care about what other people think? Why is politics all we talk about? Why do we not talk about politics around the dinner table anymore? The answer to this question is the cause of many issues in our once and future nation, the mixed economy. You see, if the state were restricted to its proper role, that of the protection of your life and liberty, then your neighbor's politics would be a bore. It would be of such little consequence that it would never come up in regular conversation. Can you imagine our nation not having a fucking meltdown every 4 years when some asshole is chosen to sit in the big boy chair? But now, it's all we talk about. I blamed the mixed economy, but why? Well, when you have no restrictions on what you allow the state to do, when you do not stand on principle, when pure democracy is the way we decide policy, then if your neighbor gets enough people together, they can pass a law to take all your stuff. They can change zoning so that your child doesn't get as good an education. They can decide that you can or cannot build a shed on your own property. They can do anything, because they have the guns. When your neighbor's political affiliations can drastically affect your well-being, of course, politics becomes what we see now. Divisive, violent brinkmanship. Political pressure groups being used to force the state in a certain direction. Combine that with terrible French and German philosophy dominating our universities, and what do you get? Well, among multitudinous other things, SB 145, which just landed on the governor's desk in California. Let's listen in on the latest bullshit.
Under current California law, whether certain people end up on the sex offender registry all depends on what kind of sex they had. State Senator Scott Wiener says it discriminates against the LGBTQ community, and his bill aims to change that. Social media comments like these are flooding the internet, calling out SB 145, many saying it legalizes pedophilia. Senator Scott Wiener, who introduced the bill, says that's not true.
It's an anti-discrimination law. It ends discrimination against LGBTQ young people on the sex offender registry.
The bill deals with situations where someone between the ages of 14 and 17 has sex with someone no more than 10 years older than them. Right now, California law says whether that older person ends up on the sex offender registry depends on what kind of sex they had.
A 19-year-old has a 17-year-old girlfriend and they have sex. That is statutory rape, but the law right now says that the judge does not have to put that 19-year-old boy on the sex offender registry because of the kind of sex that they were having. But if it's a 19-year-old boy having sex with his 17-year-old boyfriend, the judge must put that 19-year-old onto the sex offender registry, even if it was completely consensual, even if they were boyfriends, even if there was nothing coercive or predatory about it.
That's because current California law says if the kind of sex involved is anal or oral, then the person is automatically placed on the sex offender registry. However, if the case involved just vaginal sex, then it's up to a judge to decide. What SB 145 does is give judges that discretion in all cases, regardless of the kind of sex. The bill has ignited lots of comments on ABC 10's and Senator Scott Wiener's Facebook pages. Comments like these saying that the bill would make it so an 18-year-old could rape an 8-year-old.
This bill has no application to anyone under the age of 14.
Despite death threats and negative comments directed towards Wiener, his bill passed. And the next step for the bill is for it to head to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk, where he can either sign or veto it.
Well, it does seem like that law was discriminatory and possibly poorly written, I agree, but you went the wrong way, asshole. The principle in question isn't where did you stick your dick. The principle is keep your fucking hands off my kid. Holy shit, I can't believe I have to even say this. Don't fuck kids. It's that simple. A line must be drawn somewhere, and that line you do not cross. Period. None of this 10 years older if the kid is between the age of... Oh, I'm sorry, did you just say kid? Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I get it. If a senior in high school has a junior girlfriend and they get in trouble, I do, and the law should account for that. There are backwards laws in the books that get curious minors in trouble for taking pictures of themselves because it's considered child porn. I'm a very sex-positive person. There should be some common-sense laws in place that address the fact that many kids naturally are curious about their own bodies, but this ain't it, Chief. Yes, bad philosophy leads to bullshit like pedophilia. Surprise, idiots. Geez, I wonder why we don't talk about politics in polite company anymore. Got a topic or feedback? The podcast is at Americanitis Tech. You can also follow me at Dan Sagner. My last name is spelled Sierra Alpha Golf November Echo Romeo. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts if podcasts are your thing. I'm also on YouTube, so remember to annihilate that subscribe button. Patronize us at patreon.com/techside. Show notes are at techside.net/Americanitis. Theme music by Eddie. I thank you all for listening. Later days.